Welcome back to Irish Illustrated Insider. It is Tuesday, December 2nd, post regular season finale at Stanford, and we will get to the game soon. Joined today by John Bryce of Football Scoop, Pete Sampson of The Athletic. Guys, the number one story coming out of that game obviously happened in the first quarter. A knee to Jeremiah Love's ribs, which, if bruised, will be painful, and he'll need some help to play. If broken, could be an issue during a playoff game for Jeremiah Love and the Fighting Irish. Let's start with Love and any recent things we've heard there. Aside from he did return to South Bend and have an official MRI, and I can speak to that later because I had an MRI last year after I broke my ribs.
I told the MRI was clean, bruised ribs, but no tears, fractures, etc. So
That's what matters. Now it'll just hurt. But
yeah,
you can
shoot
play.
it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's where we are with that right now. And so it doesn't seem like that. Look, Notre Dame needs to. I'm not saying he's going to play with bruised ribs in a non-playoff game, but if form holds, Notre Dame's playing where we think they're going to be playing, then Jeremiah Love will be on the field to take the first offensive snap.
Yeah. And look, again, we've seen this coaching staff, the way it managed players through last year's playoff run and the way it managed players throughout spring camp. It's very tactical in giving these guys time to heal up, especially the ones who have played a ton of ball. And so Jeremiah Love's going to have 4 weeks between games, as long as Notre Dame continues to be in position to make the
I think
college
it's
football
I think
playoff.
it's 3 weeks this year though, JB. It's December 1st to December 18th, 19th.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
All right.
That's
Three
true.
weeks. Three,
it's
three
three. It
weeks.
is
Yeah.
three. Yeah. He
Yeah. I was thinking about Tay Johnson. So yes, it's
right.
three weeks. And so then still an extended time to rest, recuperate, continue to get treatment. Also for Notre Dame to potentially, there's those hip and rib pads that you can order. I'm sure that Notre Dame will stop at nothing to get the best equipment to keep him wrapped up and protected, but not constricted. And then I was going to ask you the question, T.O., you did have a mishap and break ribs. How different was it for you 1 week in versus 3 weeks in?
I actually remember the timeline. The timeline's perfect because it happened during the playoffs, the run last year. So I broke my rib. So I was okay too. This is what concerned me about when I heard the MRI. Like when I broke my rib, other than the extreme pain, 25 minutes later, I'm like, all right, I'm just sitting on the couch. I hurt myself. The next day when I woke up, it was absolutely horrible, and I went to the ER at like 6 in the morning. The real confusing thing is they're like, all right, there's so much inflammation. We don't know if your rib's broken. We think it's broken. It could be bruised. But guess what? It's the exact same treatment, time. So I went back and found out I was broken because it was really hurting. That's why I was concerned. If it was broken and he's a running back, it's going to get hit again and he's going to have insane pain. If it's a bruised ribs, you're hoping 3 weeks will be okay. Like when Pete mentioned, I think we talked about it Sunday out in Stanford. Ian Book broke the rib and played with the flak jacket, but he's not Reggie. He's not. I almost said Reggie Bush, by the way. There's a slip of the tongue for Jeremiah Love. He's not Jeremiah Love getting hit and probably being targeted in the ribs on every play. Ian Book just played through some pain. So it's huge that they're not broken. I mean, that would have been that'd have been worse than the knee injury. You couldn't get through a game. You'd start it and something else would happen.
Yeah, I mean, for point of comparison, Book missed the next week. He got hurt at Northwestern, played through the rest of the game.
Yeah.
Was peeing blood in the locker room afterwards. Could barely get on the bus after the game.
Didn't they have to stop the bus?
Yeah, it was bad. Then missed 1 week. Returned, I think, for the finale at USC, where he ran some dude over. If you remember, he had a scramble and he just trucked somebody.
There was a week in between. He played Syracuse too.
You're right. Yeah. He missed one game.
Played.
Returned to play, and then returned to play totally
fine.
Normal 3 weeks later. So we're at that point too. I get it. No injury is the same. Even if they're, bruised ribs or not. Not everyone bruises ribs the same way. But there's enough precedent there. You feel like, okay, this seems pretty manageable in a way that the meniscus just kept getting screwed up, and there wasn't a whole lot Notre Dame could do about that. Despite building a bionic brace for it, that came through and helped him score against Penn State.
The rest of the game, Pete and I talked about this. JB, I want your opinion on it. It was the strangest six touchdown performance where it felt disjointed offensively a little bit. I mean, there was three punts. There were, I guess because there were supposed to be four punts. Maybe that's why. Obviously, one punt turned into one of the more exciting touchdowns of the year. It was, I guess, because you're looking for perfection. Maybe it was because it was coming off of Syracuse, and maybe because we talked ourselves into previewing this game like, hey, even if they sell out to stop Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price, it is going to be lights out downfield for Notre Dame and CJ Carr. And it wasn't necessarily lights out downfield. I hate to bag on a 42-point offensive performance, but it just wasn't as clean as some of the other times when Notre Dame just drills a team.
No, it wasn't. It was clean. The first quarter was nice. 14
Yeah.
nothing. They're clicking, they're running. Jeremiah Love is finding big gaps. They're sharp in pretty much all facets. I don't think they were penalized at all in the first quarter. They did what they needed to. I thought that the fake punt then was a true dagger, and it proved to be overall in the big picture, but that was a Stanford team that just never stopped fighting, kept finding ways to stay on the field. That was one of the times that in the back half of the season, or the back really three-fourths of the season, that Notre Dame was highly ineffective getting to the quarterback and getting him down. And we just hadn't seen that in a long time. Let's remember they were coming off of a school record 15 TFL performance, and they had all those sacks, and they still got some pressure at times, but they could not get him down. They could not corral him. They didn't get off the field quite as effectively as they have been of late. That's sort of what stood out to me. I'm sure they would not say it had anything to do with the late nature of the kickoff, and I know they tried to take precautions, but I think it's fair to wonder if, especially the second half, when it's after midnight Eastern time, if what their body clocks were like, what their rest was like, how their bodies were feeling, all of that. But not the cleanest, but hope you think if you're Notre Dame, you hope most people saw that it was what 35-6 at halftime, 42-6 after three quarters. That's what you hope people take away from that. But again, 49-20 is still above the 24-point threshold.
It was not a cover, but I think that few people stayed up to watch it. I agree with JB. Like, Stanford kept coming. It was kind of a Monty Python Black Knight performance. Like, they kept coming after Notre Dame, even if their arms were getting chopped off. So I give them some credit for that. But I thought the dynamics of the game were just weird because O'Malley and I were talking about this pregame. It felt like one of the least meaningful games that we've covered for Notre Dame, because it just was what's going on in every other game. That was more important in what it all means for Notre Dame than whether you pasted Stanford 70-7 or 49-20 or 42-3 or 35-0. It was just kind of I think there was just some weird energy about the whole thing.
Well, it was a weird energy because it's a Notre Dame team in contention where the game isn't the story. You could come out, you could look back in 2019 when Notre Dame was playing Stanford and you already have your second loss to Michigan and you're playing out the string. There's situations like that, but this is a playoff game on the line. I think it's because you knew they were going to win, and they ended up winning by about the minimum you ever would have guessed they would win by, 29. I think if you're looking at everybody's predictions, That's right around there, 29, 28. And I remember saying to Pete, there was two important parts about this. We were trying to go back and forth on the score. I was like, it's interesting how much better 42-13 sounds than 49-20. I don't know why. But JB, also another good point is it was 42-6 when people went to bed, if you're a committee member, because you don't need to stay up anymore. Like,
Right.
that's not the thing. So I think that actually does matter when you have a room full of educated people voting instead of people just waking up and looking at a score. I mean, they had to stay up. They stayed up and watched the first half. And I'm
Yeah.
sure they're like, all right, that's enough. I got stuff to do with Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. So I do think that can fall in Notre Dame's favor as well.
Yeah, and they'll revisit that as they convene here today in Grapevine, Texas, and they'll look at all that. And again, Notre Dame didn't do anything in that game to hurt its game control metric,
Right.
and it's really good in that specific data point, and has been now, obviously, for an extended period of time. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was actually a fairly favorable in game control in the Texas A&M contest until it wasn't favorable in game control. So Notre Dame had complete game control, 14-0 after the first, 35, whatever, 3 or 6 at halftime. The fake punt's been on all the highlight reels. That can't hurt because that just shows you're just, punking teams and also toying with teams. So that's kind of my takeaway, my final takeaway on the Stanford weekend.
And I was just going to add, like, the whether you stayed up to watch the game or not, I think the committee is sophisticated enough to see, like, okay, they were up 42-6. I think
Yeah.
they're also sophisticated enough to see, like, not just look at Miami Pitt and be like, wow, they really hammered them. Like, wait a minute, they threw a touchdown with 30 seconds left. I just or Stanford scored a touchdown with
Right.
4 minutes to go, and it was, Rick Meyer's kid. Like, I think that we're beyond just sort of like box score cruising for the committee, well beyond it. So I guess I wouldn't worry too much about Notre Dame giving up a touchdown with 4 minutes to go when they're up six scores.
Yeah, exactly. I did text Rick Meyer when his son threw that touchdown pass, his first and only career TD pass. That's one of the very cool things for me since I moved to South Bend is I've developed a solid friendship with Rick Meyer through the years. And so as long as that TD doesn't hurt his alma mater, you're very happy that Charlie got to throw a touchdown pass.
Goshen's
My first
finest.
thought too. I was like, "Congratulations,
The
Rick."
Goshen commotion.
I wanted to add
Right?
you knocked your alma mater out of the playoff, but of course I would have been kidding. He did not do that. But that was when he scored. I was like, "Oh, the irony! What if Charlie Mayer goes
Yes.
nuts in these final 4 minutes and there's a huge comeback attempt that's thwarted." Um,
Crazy legs, Charlie. He
yeah,
had
that
some
was a nice
wheels.
run too. That was frustrating. Like, good dude, get off the field. I think we were trying to Pete and I were waiting to walk downstairs and like time it out perfect. We're like, oh my, they just keep coming. There is
Yeah.
no, yeah, kudos to Stanford. They did not give up. That was pretty fun to watch. We have a little bit more on the fake punt in a question later on in segment two. As Pete mentioned, the game was secondary to the playoff talk, and we have plenty of playoff talk. I know overtime was wrought with playoff talk. Instant analysis for me, solo, went straight to playoff talk because I was sick of talking about the game other than Jeremiah Levin and Aeneas Williams. It's what's on everybody's mind, and I want to start here. We're still in segment one, but there's two good questions I want to use. ND Squid 23, because I believe he is quoting Michael Scott when he says this. Explain it to me like I'm five. What does ND need to happen with the conference championships to guarantee a spot?
I think the clearest answer to that is you want to see BYU and Alabama get the hell beat out of each of them. So that's the clearest pathway. You do not want either one of those teams winning an incredibly close game, but especially if they are blown out. 10 plus points, I think, would be good, but you want them to lose as emphatically as possible. I think that is the clearest cut scenario. I'll throw it over to you guys.
Yeah, I was going to say, Alabama, I think, will go either way. If BYU beats Texas Tech, Notre Dame is in real trouble. That game kicks off at noon, so you won't have to sit around your entire Saturday with a feeling of existential dread. So hopefully by 3:15 or 3:20, if you're a Notre Dame fan, you'll be like, do you throw a tortilla or something? I don't know how Texas Tech celebrates these days.
Yeah.
I think
You
Alabama
throw it
would
towards
stay in as well, but not if they get killed. If they just lose a regular game,
Yeah.
let's say they lose by 10, 30
Yeah.
to 10. But I
I mean,
think
that's like the thing.
they're behind Notre Dame.
Alabama
They're behind
already
Notre Dame though at that point.
Alabama already beat Georgia.
Yeah,
BYU
Right.
got destroyed by Texas Tech.
right, right.
Right.
So I think that, yeah, Texas, if BYU beats Texas Tech, you are in a world of hurt if you're Notre Dame.
Yeah, and that's one, Pete, you made a really good point a minute ago about the access to all the data, video, sophistication of the committee. I watched very intently that BYU Texas Tech game, and 29-7, I think, was the final, and it was never a 29-7 football game.
No,
Like it was as disparate as Saturday night in Palo Alto. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
and yeah, and everybody on the committee will be watching that one, as Pete points out, that's the one to watch. Interesting, the SEC championship game has moved up in time. Maybe it doesn't mean quite as much as we thought it does because they're no longer in the feature spot there, JB. Big Ten time.
There you go.
One question kind of sent toward JB's way, and then Pete and I will chime in. RJ Ross 58 asks, with John Bryce's extensive knowledge of how the committee truly ranks teams, I would be interested in how he ranks the teams 6 to 12, or how you think they will rank the team. I don't think we actually care how you will rank the team, John, because just like everybody else on Twitter, it doesn't matter. But maybe how the committee will rank the teams. And he has a couple of questions. Will Ole Miss drop because of Kiffin's departure? And let's also add the offensive coordinator. Let's start there.
Yeah, should note, and we'll continue to monitor this at Football Scoop. I am getting some texts this morning that Charlie Weiss may be allowed to return to Ole Miss and coach during the playoffs. So monitor that for sure. But Lane Kiffin leaving is supposed to be discussed among the committee. It's supposed to be the same as a player being out for injury. Now, obviously, it's not quite the same as Jordan Travis a couple of years ago for Florida State when he was completely out and everyone knew it, and that caused Florida State not to get into to the playoffs. But Lane Kiffin's departure is supposed to be a factor. Also, the fact that Pete Golding will be the head coach and has never been a head coach in his life, and Joe Judge is going to stay on and have a key role with Ole Miss, but he's been an NFL head coach. He's not been back in the college game very long at all. I think all these will be topics of discussion tonight when the crew meets there in the Gaylord Hotel. As for how I would rank the teams, I would drop Ole Miss. I would emphatically drop Ole Miss as a matter of fact, and I would go my 6 through 12 would be Oregon, Oklahoma, Notre Dame, Ole Miss, Alabama, Miami, and BYU. That's how I would do it. I said all weekend long because I actually went to the BYU game I mentioned previously. Know some of the coaches there. I saw them fall behind a dreadful Central Florida team, 14-0. I saw them not be able to get off the field the entire first half. They're obviously dealing with some uncertainty with their head coach right now. That could certainly, if it lingers throughout the week, that's certainly something to be mindful of when BYU plays on Saturday. But I just thought, even though Miami was really trash league in throwing touchdowns each of the last two games. It's not just that they did it against Pittsburgh. They called timeouts to make a 10-point win against Virginia Tech a 17-point win. But even with that, they thoroughly dominated Pittsburgh on the road when Pittsburgh also had everything to play for. So that's why I moved Miami ahead of BYU, and that would be my 6 through 12.
Something similar. Oklahoma, I think, is a weird team to me because they're not playing well. Their offense feels broken, and they just don't feel like a team that has a chance to do anything in the playoff. Ole Miss is harder for me to judge. I think having Charlie Weiss back to call plays would actually be really significant to them. And the big difference between them and Florida State is like we saw Florida State without Jordan Travis before the playoff rankings came out. They were an abject disaster. We just don't know with Ole Miss because we have not seen them play without Lane Kiffin so far. So I would go. I like Oregon a lot. So I guess I would go Oregon. I would keep Ole Miss where they are. I like Notre Dame more than Oklahoma, but I like Alabama more than both of them. So I'd go Oregon, Ole Miss, Alabama, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, Miami, BYU.
Wow.
Oh, go ahead, JB.
No, I was just going to say it would probably be a bit quixotic of our thinking to believe that they would really dive in on Oklahoma because I do think that Notre Dame is a better team than Oklahoma, but I rank those based on what I think the committee should do and will do. And so,
Oh yeah,
if
I'm
I'm
with you on the will
personally,
do. Yeah.
I'm personally very much in my own rankings. I absolutely, without question, have Notre Dame ahead of Oklahoma, and we'll see how much the committee looks at that. Because again, game control, Oklahoma had a scintilla of game control against LSU, and it took a freaking busted coverage to win that game. And still, LSU had a chance to drive down. And also, if LSU hadn't taken a sack, then it's 16-10, and you don't know how much more pressure Oklahoma feels and everything else. So that's how I do it. But I rank that 6 through 12 based on what I think the committee will do and also some of my own rankings there.
I think Notre Dame will be put ahead of Oklahoma in this committee's rankings on Tuesday. I also think Miami will be ahead of BYU, which crunches things a little bit when you're looking afraid of a head-to-head comparison with Miami and Notre Dame. That Oklahoma win, as the best point, JB, they had zero game control.
Right.
That was an advertisement for their shirts, hard to kill. Other teams' shirts are we're on a wrecking crew. We're on a course from just wrecking teams, Miami and Notre Dame. I mean, the one thing I'd say, LSU came to play. Like they're not any good anymore because they don't their staff is wrecked, but it's not like LSU was laying down for Oklahoma. LSU was all
Right.
about winning that game. And I also like to give teams like in the Iron Bowl Auburn's not a really good team, but that game meant more to Auburn than Pittsburgh did with Notre Dame. I like to recognize it's really hard to do this because rivalry games are played all year long. But you have to recognize Auburn playing Alabama is this little bit of a special case. Like Alabama didn't look great against Auburn. They easily could have lost that game. But Auburn's coming to play in that game.
Well, and
Auburn's coming to
also,
play.
also, I spoke with an Auburn official on Saturday afternoon, and the fact is, had DJ Durkin led Auburn to victory, I believe the Tigers were going to name him their head coach. It was that close. So
Oh
there
God,
was a
probably best that they
hell of a
lost.
lot. There was a hell of a lot
Yeah.
on the line.
Let me put it this way for Notre Dame fans that disagree with me. And I'm not saying Alabama should be ahead of Notre Dame. I'm just saying I don't think they should be penalized, Alabama, for winning the Iron Bowl. If Notre Dame went out to USC and had to secure a playoff spot, and USC was 6-5, and USC threw everything but the kitchen sink at Notre Dame. As a Notre Dame fan, would you not be proud and happy that they won 27-20 in their biggest rivalry and went home and you'd say, playoff spot secured, that was tight. Man, USC's a great rivalry. I just
You
think
mean,
that's what goes on in
you mean
this.
what happened last year?
I
Yeah,
was getting ready
yeah,
to say, like, wasn't
yeah.
it? What was USC last year? Seven and
That's what
five,
I mean. And you
or
don't think
finished
that's
7-5, and it was, yeah, it took a pick six or two to completely
yes.
stymie the Trojans.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just give a little credence to the rivalry. And I realize that it's easier to do in November games, of course, because the rivalry is being on display on the best weekend of college football season. You don't need the conference championship games anymore because conferences are dumb. Hashtag conferences are dumb. Everybody move on. But also, by the way, guys, conferences are really dumb when you don't play the teams in your conference. That wonderful Texas A&M game against Georgia and Alabama was, oh yeah, that's right. They didn't play the best teams in their conference.
Do you think
That's
Miami would have preferred to play Duke and Virginia this year?
I think that would have been they would not have minded. And for all the talk about Miami, Miami belongs in the playoffs along with Notre Dame, but we will get to that at the end of this podcast. Segment one was brought to you by the RV Manufactured Housing Hall of Fame in Elkhart, Indiana. In addition to the museum and its various exhibition halls, the campus is open to the public for free camping and is less than an hour from Notre Dame's campus. No reservation required. Whether you're looking to learn more about the history of recreational vehicles in the Kinlan Library, or simply a cost-effective, interesting place to stay on your family road trip, the RV Manufactured Housing Hall of Fame can provide exactly what you're looking for. We'll be back with a spirited segment two, burning up the boards. Welcome back to segment two, burning up the boards. We're going to put some Stanford football to rest here with this question. Irish from A2. Actually, Irish from A2, shout out. He had 3 good questions this week, but we're only going to use one. And finally, with the Cardinal, I do have a theory here. Any concern with the lack of pass rush against Stanford? Concern going forward is what he means. Obviously, there was a lack of pass rush against Stanford.
Ken?
Not
No,
really.
no. I wouldn't take a whole lot away from that. I mean, the game was under control immediately. So at that point, you're just kind of like, all right, just keep everything in front of you. I mean, if you want to keep throwing at Leonard Moore, we'll give you plenty of time to do that. We don't need to put you under pressure to do that. So go for it. And, like, nobody was open and they couldn't move the ball.
I think, go ahead, JB.
No, I was just going to say, I think that we've sort of been over all of those issues. It wasn't Notre Dame's most effective. Notre Dame didn't need it to be. Notre Dame didn't need to dial up any of Chris Ash's more intricate blitzes that we've seen more of down the stretch of the season. It seized a 14-0 lead and then a 21-point second quarter. Again, game control, don't show. You had them in control. You were playing to keep them throttled down. You stayed on the field way too darn much in the second half, but that doesn't bother me.
I think there's 2 reasons for it. One that could be a problem going forward is that Kingston Biliamuasa was not on the field, and he helps that pass rush, but he won't be on the field for the playoff. Number 2 is I'm not going to say the late start. I'm just going to say the way Notre Dame's November goes, because these are the sacks they had at USC, Stanford the last few years. Okay, last year 1. Year before that against Stanford 3. Year before that against USC 2. Year before that against Stanford 5, which is good. Year before that against Stanford 2. They're tied. Oh, year before that, 2018, the best pass rush they had, 1. You know why? Their legs are tired when they fly out on that West Coast trip after all of November. It's just the way it is. Like Mike Elko said it, not Mike Elko. Mike Elston said it twice. He's like, look, man, we were dead. Our legs were dead. We couldn't get any pass rush. And it's the same reason why they're not getting the pass rush. It's harder out there, flying out there at the end of the year. It's something they'll look into. I mean, there's been multiple defensive coordinators say, we can't rush the passer as well in week 12. Makes sense. I don't think that's going to be a problem in the playoff game. As JB pointed out, they'll be dialing up a lot of stuff. KVA missing. I mean, he is arguably their second best pass rusher.
Yeah. He's a little more complete player than Bubakar,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
bare minimum, their second best pass rusher.
right. Next question from Siggles. With the regular season now in the books, choose an offensive and defensive player for these categories. Number one, most improved from game 1 through 12. So ideally, he would have played in game 1. I I can offer mine if you guys are trying to think.
Shoot,
Tay
what do you
Johnson.
got?
Tay Johnson.
I'm trying to think if there's somebody other than Tay
Yeah,
Johnson.
yeah.
Yeah, just for the sake of being different, I mean, it's like a Don Schuler was massively improved from game 1 to game 12, but
Right.
like I think game 1 for him, you're like, well, that's just I'm like it was almost like you're not even worried about
Yeah,
it.
an anomaly.
Tay Johnson, you're just like, I think he's good, but I haven't really ever seen him do it. And game 1 wasn't, and game 2 wasn't that good either.
Right.
So yeah, I feel like Tay Johnson is probably your runaway winner for this one.
I'll be slightly different, and I'll go Malachi Fields because he did have a fumble in game 1, and I think he might have had a drop as well. He certainly had a sensational catch, but to me, he emerged as the best downfield, big body jump ball threat that Notre Dame's had since Chase Claypool.
If to not vote for Tay Johnson and just pretend like this is a draft anomaly took him, I'll go Anthony Knapp.
That's a
'Cause, I
great
mean, he was so bad in game 1, and he's like a Don Shooter, like, well, I know he can do it.
yeah.
But I don't think that underscores just how bad he was at Miami, and he's been really good ever since. So I think that'd be somebody to consider for this.
You could
Yeah.
add Wagner was not phenomenal out at Miami either.
No,
At least he made it very famously not when he just stuck his arms out like that on the pass rush. It was a sack. But no, yeah, Knapp. I mean, Knapp has talked about his struggles for week 1.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Category number 2, expected more, but they delivered less.
Christian Gray for me. Like I know he had his struggles to end last year, but he's so freaking gifted and he's so athletic and his frame is literally what you would draw up in a lab if you were trying to make a prototype DB. And plus he's just a fantastic dude. Like he's so fun to interview. So, but that's for me. Like it's been a disappointment. It was another DPI on him this past weekend, if I'm not mistaken. So that one's it for me.
Uh,
Great House does not count, Pete. So
oh, okay. I was just gonna say Gray House.
What? Wait,
So
what
I
are these
actually,
gerrymandered rules here?
Yeah, I know.
Ask a
It's
question like 45 seconds in?
he's the winner. He's the winner.
Look, see what I'm doing? I'm moving the
Yeah, Tim
goal.
O'Malley with a redistricting effort here on the
Yeah.
podcast.
Oh,
I'd just be the committee
Timo
chair. I can
gerrymander.
just say anything I want on Tuesday nights. Well, we really like Notre Dame's game control.
So I know he came up in the previous category, but I really thought Emil Wagner was going to kick on and be like a great college offensive tackle, and he has not done that. So I'm not saying he's been bad, but I thought he would take the next step where like, well, he's definitely leaving after this year because
Right.
he's a second round pick, and like he
Right.
is. That just hasn't happened for him.
Yeah, I thought we would see Emil Wagner this year take that step to where like, oh well, he's going to be a top 60, top 75 pick. Like
Yeah, I
he's
mean,
played 2,000 snaps the last 2 years. He's overall stayed healthy. He's really athletic, and he took that next step of physicality and showed that he can maul people and set up a wall for pass protection. And you're right, Pete. That's a really, really good one.
Um, I think that a lot of people expect us to say Eli Raridan because he didn't score a touchdown, but everything else he does is really good. So Eli Raridan is not there. But people on this
Oh,
thread are going to immediately jump in and say Eli Raridan. He's a very valuable member in a extremely strange situation that he hasn't scored a touchdown. And I did point out, I think it was 10 games in, he was not targeted in the red zone. That is on Mike Denbrock and CJ Carr. I'm sorry, not targeted in the end zone. He's 6'6" leaping athlete. You have to target him in the end zone. So it's been targeted once now, right? What game was that? Where he
he was
missed?
targeted
no, he
at
got targeted
Pittsburgh.
against Stanford over
It
the
was
weekend.
Pittsburgh. He got targeted in the goal line, inside the goal line.
Yes.
Okay, that's 2 times for the year. So and it still didn't work. Jeez. He did set up a DS Williams score, so I won that bet. A DS Williams scored before Eli Raridan again.
Nobody likes a gloater.
I think Pete, you win it with Wagner. That's the big leap that did not happen.
Yeah.
Because I don't think anyone's, I mean, Anthony Knapp was still good for a freshman last year, so you weren't putting him in that category where you thought he was going to be a dominant player.
Yeah, I thought we would be like, is Wagner ever going to be McGlinchey or Ronnie Stanley? Well, no. But like
The next one level,
Hainsey, Liam Eichenberg, like I don't know if he's been that good.
he's not been as good as Liam Eichenberg was his last year. He was really good. And I think Wagner should stay an extra year if Notre Dame can afford the situation there. And if not, he can. I think Wagner will be playing college football next year and probably be a very good fifth-year offensive lineman.
I think talking to people, he can get 1.3 to 1.5 million on the open market.
So he's probably playing college football somewhere else if that actually materializes, because that's pretty good. It's a pretty good number to give up. Finally, if this player shines, ND goes at least back to the national championship game. I'm going to move the goalpost again. Anyone is available. Go ahead, guys. There's your hit.
CJ Carr. CJ Carr. He's been, I would contend, far more than what would have been a reasonable expectation for a first year redshirt freshman starter who essentially had never taken a snap. That Purdue team wasn't even a college team last year. So that's it for me. Like it's a quarterback driven sport right now, and if CJ Carr is operating at a very high level, then I would fully expect Notre Dame to be capable of winning against anyone.
Noah Burnett,
A good one.
as I just think, like, then you can actually score every time you have the ball. Which right now they can only score if they get over the goal line, which is going to be really difficult in the college football playoff because you're not playing Stanford, Syracuse, and Navy.
I have one cheating answer because it's obvious. Because he wasn't playing last year when they made their run. He barely played. Jeremiah Love, if he shines, they're going back because shining for Jeremiah Love is 3 touchdowns at 180 yards against playoff teams. The other option, though, would be Boubacar Traore. If all of a sudden people are talking about Boubacar Traore's pass rush, aside from Notre Dame fans, I think that'd be a pretty big deal for a playoff run. Next question is a two-parter. It's about Aeneas Williams from NDEDMD. Aeneas Williams' usage and efficiency against Stanford tells us what does it tell us about his prospects of returning to Notre Dame next season? Would Notre Dame really do better than Williams in the portal at a reasonable cost? And Frankencow mentions the portal as well. Does Aeneas' recent playing time and resulting success make him more likely to stay or less likely since he has now generated greater demand and offers from other schools?
I tried to talk to people. Certainly going into senior day weekend, everyone I talked to felt it was 50-50. So I don't know where you guys are, who you've talked to, but talking with people on campus, the feeling was 50-50. Certainly Notre Dame, I think, has made a very conscious effort over the last month of the season to show Aeneas Williams what could be in store next year, and also what kind of offensive line, more or less, he could be running behind.
I think he will stay, which is not something I would have said a month ago. The opportunity is there for, I think that having some proof of concept, that might be the most significant thing that comes out of the Stanford game for Notre Dame. They're like, oh yeah, we can, Aeneas Williams trusts you'll put me in the game. And the coaching staff trusts if we put him in the game, this can happen more than just in the fourth quarter of a blowout. I wouldn't say I would want Aeneas Williams getting 200 carries next year, but I think that he could be a 1A, 1B situation at running back. And I don't mean that in a Price Love kind of way, because I think Love is 1 and Price is 2. But I think Williams' role would be greater than Price's was this year.
I just wonder how much money he's going to get offered if Bryce mentions some of the offers that linemen get from FCS and from other places like that. I don't know how much you pay Aeneas Williams, but you don't have a better option than Aeneas Williams coming back either. So he is in a good, he put himself in a decent spot that did not, when you mentioned a month of playing in Bryce, it's been 2 weeks. I mean, it's only been Syracuse. It's been Syracuse and Stanford, but he probably remembers Syracuse and Stanford a lot more than he does with the previous games where he wasn't playing. It's so much. No, he was not getting in any.
Well, I know that. I thought there was one other game this year where he had a long touchdown run, but maybe
he did. Every time he gets in, he scores. Arkansas, but I don't think it
yeah.
counts when you're up 60 and you're getting in. Like he was in high leverage Stanford situations.
Yeah. No, he was.
I don't know. I don't know what I would guess. But Bryce is 50-50. I'm still there because I think without a huge offer, he'd love to come back. That'd be a no brainer. He wouldn't transfer in the pre NIL era, but I don't
Right.
know how much money you're going to offer him because he might get a lot.
If you all will remind me, then I'll try to speak with a bunch of agents around the country in the coming days, and maybe by next Thursday or by Thursday's pod, I can just have an update. I feel like I know what the marketplace is for him, but I want to
Okay.
reconfirm with at least three different guys that all have multiple power conference players. So, all right, question four. O'Malley finally moves the goalpost that allow me to read a question from PA Irish 5. How would you compare last year's team to this year's team? For the sake of this comparison, assume each team's health is as it was entering their respective conference championship weekends.
Go ahead, Pete. You talked about that a little on
Well, I mean,
Saturday.
I'm not going to assume respective health at it because I think that when the playoff happens, Stroud will be back. Rubio might be back. Tay Johnson will be back. So just like what we assume Notre Dame to be entering the first round of the playoff, um, I think I'll go with. I don't know. I'm torn on this one honestly because I have thought last year's team was better than this year's
Yeah.
team pretty much all season. But then you're getting these pieces like you get Tay Johnson and Shrouth and like they certainly will be healthier at the end this year than last year. So I wonder if that tips it the other way because of just like I think last year's roster at full strength was better than this year's roster at full strength.
Last year I had Riley Mills at this point. Um, I'm not sure.
And Morrison was pretty good. He was out.
Yeah, he wasn't coming back though. Like
Yeah.
that. Yeah. Cross was beaten up already again. KVA was definitely going to miss game one, maybe game two.
Yeah.
This is worse. He's missing all the whole thing.
Offensive line was a mess.
Offensive line's a train wreck. Yeah. I think it's really hard with Jeremiah Love too. I don't remember. We felt he'd be fine. I don't recall because then he had the 98-yard run. We're like, oh, he's fine, and
He
then he never
wasn't.
had another explosive run. So I think. The big advantage I give last year's team is they knew who they were still offensively. Like I knew what was going to happen against Indiana on 3rd and 3. It was either going to be a first down by Riley Leonard and Jeremiah Love, or it was going to be 4th and 1, and they were going to convert that again. But this one has a better chance of obviously attacking all over. I would rank the other team very, very slightly ahead.
I think last year's team would have beaten this year's team probably pretty soundly in September. And in December, I think it would be more of a pick 'em. And maybe this year's team would actually be favored.
Yeah, I wasn't really looking at the matchup because I think the matchup of this year's team against Riley Leonard, I think Notre Dame would suffocate. Notre Dame's defense this year could suffocate last year's Riley. I was looking more at like Ohio State's coming with
Mm.
State and Jeremiah Smith and all that stuff. I think this year's Notre Dame team would beat last year's team, but that would be the impossible game.
Yeah, I think the only way I can answer this question is that I very firmly believe this is a more complete team.
Mhm.
This year's team is more complete. And because of that, I think it can win playoff games in different ways.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Our next question comes from Ennie Davis. This is a good one for Bryce. When assessing Notre Dame as a complete team, how do you think the committee will judge them on special teams? They can seemingly strike from any angle with the exception of kicking a simple field goal, which they have not done in 2 months. It's a great question. It's so going into the Stanford game, I have not looked yet. I should have. Notre Dame had the 31st ranked special teams in the Freemu Index without a kicker. If you have a kicker, you're about top 10 probably. I mean, all the numbers are involved. Like every number that's involved, they're penalized for missing extra points and missing field goals. They were still the 31st ranked team going into the Stanford game, and they scored on a fake punt touchdown. They're going to be higher.
Yeah. First of all, I'll be candid. I don't remember discussing a single team's special teams when we were
Okay.
in committee. So I'll be. I mean, look, we had the metrics up there, but we never drilled so far down on a team that we were like, no, forget them. They're terrible. Like they can't kick a 30-yard field goal. I'm dinging them for that. I would also point out you just referenced the touchdown on this past Saturday, the Talich touchdown from Burnham. That gave Notre Dame its fifth special teams touchdown this year across three different phases. And then They've punted very effectively with Rendell. And while they've had their place kicking struggles, it's not like they're squibbing kickoffs to the 35 every time and giving opponents great field position. So I just don't see Notre Dame's special teams as being some sort of detriment in the eyes of the committee.
I mean, I think Notre Dame special teams is a detriment in the eyes of the committee, or the missed extra point against Texas A&M.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the detriment. They're because they have not made any field goals, but they're not attempting them either. So they're just sort of working around that.
Their percentage is fine. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, their percentage is not good, but like their their attempts, they've attempted 9 field goals.
Yeah.
That's an insanely low number. So if they are just like, hey, this is how we're going to play, I don't think that you would ding them for essentially being aggressive on 4th down in gray area situations. I don't think the committee would be like, well, we prefer you kick field goals in those situations as opposed to scoring touchdowns, which is what Notre Dame's doing.
There's a dichotomy here, though. They won't get dinged by the playoff committee, but they might get dinged in a playoff game.
100%. That's why
You got to get to the playoffs.
Noah Burnett would be my player.
You got to get there first. Yeah.
You got to get to the playoffs to worry about the playoffs.
Yes, yeah, but that is definitely one of the main concerns of the playoff game. Our next question is from Pay It Irish, and this is going to you too. O'Malley complains about Price's stuff rate while still acknowledging he's a great player. Thank you for that, Pay It Irish. Do you have similar complaints about similarly great players? It could be any year. JB, it could be Tennessee. Pete, it could be some soccer team. But really, I mean ND. So I do. I mean, Price is like a great Notre Dame runner. And I have complaints about his stuff rate. You know why? Because so did Dylan McCullough. So I'm with him.
Um,
He
I
has
don't
14
know.
touchdowns. I'm complaining about stuffs.
Yeah.
But I know their name's a little high for a guy as good
They're
as
kind of
that's why I
nitpicking
do
on
it.
that one, I guess.
Yeah. Um,
I
I mean, I
can't.
think I think,
Think of guys you've covered at Notre Dame. Are like, that guy's really good, but boy, does he screw this up.
Yeah. You know, it's similar to Price in a lot of ways. Like Josh Adams was a Heisman candidate that I didn't think was all that great.
you you talked about that a lot because
I'm
Saquon
just
Barkley
like,
said
guy, like
that.
it was like he's up to 1,400 yards. I'm like, I know, but still, like this is like if he doesn't have perfect blocking, it's not happening for him. Fortunately for him, he had perfect blocking a lot. But I would say Josh, this is kind of like a overrated, really good player
Yeah, no, this is what
question.
the question is. Yes. Yeah.
Josh Adams would be pretty high on my list.
what did 33 trucking run over your dog or something?
It's
That's
no,
so
I
I
rude.
think Pete mentioned it quite a few times. It should be 56 trucking for that season.
and 68 trucking. Like
68 and 50. Yes, 56 trucking was a big part of it.
Um, you know,
We know
I
it's,
might,
we know it's not Dale Carter, John Bryce, because he was just great, right? So then we go from
yeah, definitely not Dale Carter or Carl Pickens. You know, I would probably go because this is just a little over a decade ago. I would go Cordero Patterson, who played a really long time in the NFL, but he was just so unreliable. Like he
See, this
was,
is fun.
he was this incredible kick returner that if you haven't seen it, Google like Cordero Patterson kickoff return versus Mississippi State, and then Google Cordero Patterson handoff touchdown run or Cordero Patterson touchdown versus Georgia. Both those games, I think, in 2012 because they helped get Derek Dooley fired. Those plays are the singular, unbelievable, ridiculous plays. And then I can't tell you how many times coaches complained to me that he ran the wrong route. Or not occasionally, he ran the wrong route more than he ran the right route, like routinely. And then there's another really funny story that isn't fit for this podcast, but I'll
Everything's fit
share it with you
the
guys.
goalposts. You're fine. Move the goalposts around.
Yeah, no, not unless we can also move the FCC. So I'll leave it at that. But yeah, that's it for me. So I mean, Tyler Bray, the quarterback, would be up there because he As Philip Fulmer liked to say, even though he never coached him, this was his phrase. He goes, "Thing about him, he's going to make somebody's band play, but it's not always going to be yours."
Hurts. Yeah, that's a good one. I'm glad you took that in the right spirit, though, guys. I mean, they're really good players, but don't have complaints about price
Yeah.
until I have one. Then I have a complaint that has to be voiced.
You're probably complaining that I get to read another question. From Kay Beasley, where do Greathouse, Flanagan, Tay Johnson, and Shrouth slot in come playoff time?
I
The
mean,
Go ahead,
Tay
Bean.
Johnson and Strouth are starting, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
it just depends on what type of thing Tate Johnson has in his hand, but he's starting no matter what.
I don't know about the other ones. Cooper Flanagan, I think when we started talking about Cooper Flanagan, it was like, well, okay, he'll come back and they'll save a year because he's only going to play 4 games. Hasn't worked out that way. He's not even dressing for games, so I wonder if that, Achilles, that's a year-long injury, and we're not quite at a year. So I don't know if there's a spot for him. And like, to be fair, I think Ty Washington is giving them something now in a way that he wasn't giving them something in September.
If Cooper Flanagan could help them in a championship game, that'd be great. You know,
Yes.
but I don't think he'd be fully ready. Are his 5 snaps in December at Outson Stadium better than Jaden Greathouse on the field again? Definitely not. You know how I feel about the jumbo packages, guys. Pete and I will gang up, but Bryce doesn't feel that way. They don't have the jumbo personnel. Don't do it.
No,
No.
especially if you have better receivers than
Yeah,
you've had in the past. Will Pauling is better than Notre Dame's second tight end.
right.
But
Greathouse.
again, you can play anybody in the month of December now,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it doesn't count against that red shirt. As for just quickly on Flanagan, I would just say he is not a year removed from it, but he is. That first playoff game would be about 49 weeks or so. So that's
Mm.
significant. That's pretty darn close. If they're able to get him that extra step, then I think he can help this team in certain situations. And Great House is a mystery because didn't he dress? Wasn't he fully dressed for the Syracuse game? Like I think he was in
Ooh,
uniform.
No, he was
I don't
not.
think he was.
He did not
Oh,
dress. He did not
okay.
dress. Yeah.
Okay.
He he did not dress because we talked about it in the press box saying, well, he may have to dress for Stanford in case things go incredibly south. It's impossible things go south here. Was the
Right.
comment that we did about Syracuse.
Okay. Okay.
Greathouse, that's the biggest mystery. If Jaden Greathouse is an X factor in any game, it helps you win a playoff game, no matter how good the opponent is. They almost beat Ohio State, and Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price had nothing. They had no
Right.
yards. Like, if they could get anything out of a real, like, not anything, a game out of Jaden Greathouse, where you're like, oh man, look at this. Even if he doesn't reprise it, I think it's great for the team.
Well, and again, as we talk, because we can't ignore it, a great game in the playoffs does nothing but drive his price tag up. So, well, as he sits here and examines career options, a great game in the playoffs
Yeah.
behooves him.
Next question from Packy P. It is Mike Martin time, his first off season. What are the expectations?
I would just say, like, if you can keep roster retention the way that's gone the last 2 or 3 years, those are my expectations. It's like he doesn't need to come in and like revolutionize anything here. And I think Notre Dame's roster construction is in a really good spot. I think he's been part of the reason it still is that way. So I think his job is much more, I think, keeping the trains running on time than like being some like revolutionary general manager.
Yeah, I think he's getting settled in. I think he's beginning and has plans to make some tweaks to that department moving into 26 as he gets a better grasp on the college game. I think also my understanding is they've already been pretty active in studying film and being prepared to move on guys as soon as they either announce going into the portal or officially enter the portal here a month from today, actually. So, yeah, I think he's roster retention for me is number one, and that doesn't necessarily mean you have to retain every starter. Some guys,
No,
including a guy that we've talked about extensively on this podcast today, that does not mean that. It means you have to retain the roster that gives you the maximum chances for success next year, because next year can certainly be a playoff bye team with a chance to do a lot of big things. So that for me It's kind of how I look at it. But I do know they're making preparations to make some very key strong acquisitions in the portal.
This is Mike Martin's first offseason. Last year doesn't count. And just like Marcus Freeman, Mike Martin will probably be better at this game 1 year from today because you learn what you need to do. But Bryce, that I think you guys make a great point. We got to hammer home. It is not just retaining everybody; it's retaining the right ones, finding someone to replace them, and making the money work. Because I mean, the good news is your highest NIL bump. CJ Carr can probably find some outside NIL, just like Jeremiah Love last year. That's hugely important that CJ Carr will be coveted for an actual true, like saying true to, not that I care anymore,
He's going to
but
be
it
on
is
the
an
next.
actual
I'm going Fansville. I think CJ
Fansville,
Carr will be
something. Yes, he can
Fansville.
actually make NIL like New Balance, whereas Aeneas
Yeah.
Williams can't go out and make New Balance like Jeremiah Love did. So that helps with CJ Carr. Portal acquisitions still got to be on the defensive line. I think there's an expectation he finds a defensive lineman that can help you along the lines of Javonte Jean-Baptiste, more so than along the lines of RJ Oben,
Elijah Hughes.
Elijah Hughes, or RJ Oben, Jared Dawson. If you can get the next Javonte Jean-Baptiste, that's realistic. It's not realistic to get Pavis, or excuse me, Priester's guy Fisk all the time because there's a big payment coming to a guy like that this year. But Javonte Jean-Baptiste was a backup top tier Ohio State player. You can find those guys that are the backup top tier Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama players. Maybe you can get one of them to come to Notre Dame. And then wide receiver for me as well. I think there's so many talented wide receiver acquisitions out there. The portal is the way to go for 1 to 2 every single year, and then the other guys on your roster have to live with it. That's the way it works. Final question. Blue Chip Man, and I apologize for editing your Notre Dame part of this question out, Blue Chip Man, but I decided to do it anyway. Moving the goalpost, JB, how would you change the college football playoff qualification protocols? He meant for Notre Dame, but I just wanted to go for we're not including that.
Um, I mean, I don't know. That one's so tough. Um, I mean, honestly, what I would do is I would go to the 40 to 60 team super division and have more cross-sectional games and pretty much say to hell with conferences. Like I hate the fact that the Big Ten is 18 or 19 teams and the ACC is 17 and 18 in basketball. And so you have a situation where a trash pad 5 loss Duke team is playing for an ACC championship and might get to go to the playoffs. So I absolutely freaking hate that. Which is why I will still maintain if Duke wins. I wonder this. I don't know. I'm not smart enough. I don't have the computer algorithms or anything to compute it. But I wonder if Duke wins, does the ACC get its champion shut out? Because what if James Madison wins and Tulane or North Texas win, and they're viewed better by the committee than Duke, as they should be? Because by the way, Tulane beat Duke this year.
I was about to say, I was just going to throw it up because they're better, but I decided not to.
I mean, look, you have to honor the head-to-head, John. So
That's
I
true.
think that you'd have to take Tulane over Duke in that situation.
Boy, that's the
Man.
nicest thing you've ever said to me. I'm Costanza. I'm out.
I'm with JB that conferences are stupid, but everybody knows that. No, seriously, at this point they are stupid. You don't need to have an ACC champion in. You don't need to say, well, the SEC needs 4 because they're the best conference. The 50 to 60 super, and then the other schools playing in another division, and they can play up during the regular season is fine. You don't have a conference if A&M's not playing Georgia and Alabama. Doesn't make any sense. Like that, they didn't prove anything. Why is A&M not in the playoff championship game of the SEC conference? It's like the SEC. It's like Texas A&M. I'm sure that they don't mind, of course, that they're not in it because they get to rest. But how did Texas A&M not qualify? It's so weird. I know
Yeah, I
that's the
would.
tiebreaker. That's all there was. But the tiebreaker had nothing to do with them playing anybody.
Yeah,
It was record
I mean,
against
Duke
common
didn't either.
opponents.
Yeah, but that's nothing.
Yeah.
I'm not.
I
I'm
mean, that's
not
better than the
disagreeing with
Mountain
that.
West, which went straight to like computers and the BCS formula. That's better than that.
You know, who has the best tiebreakers? What independence? Go ahead, Pete.
I was gonna say instead of doing a huge on Super League change, I think a minor adjustment that would work. Just do the 16 team playoff all at larges.
Yeah, I like
Because
60.
in that situation, if Tulane had gone 11-1, they would have made it. You know, I think that gives a excellent group of 5 program
Boise last year.
access. Boise would have made it last year. Cincinnati, the Sauce Gardner team, would have obviously made it. They made the 14 playoffs. So I think you can open the door for G5 programs in a better way than the automatic bid that gets us into this nonsense. So just give me a 16 team bracket, all at larges.
And no conference championships because you have a 16 team bracket now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know what I would love to do is like bag the conference championship. I think Joey McGuire made this point. Like season starts week 0, bag conference championships. That's when the first round of the playoff is. But I would just do a 16 team all at large. Maybe it started last weekend on Thanksgiving weekend, and this weekend we'd already be talking about round 2.
And here's why I think that plan could work and would be received by the cities that host these events, because these cities have now baked these championship games into their budgets and into their revenue projections and all of that. But if they're hosting an opening round playoff game there or something like that, then they're getting more variety probably for their teams. Like you're not getting Ohio State every single year in Indianapolis where their fans are tired of going or drive in and drive out the same day.
I think Charlotte would be absolutely fine with hosting Georgia and somebody in their game instead of Duke and Virginia.
I can't wait to see those teal blue empty seats inside the Panthers Stadium like we do
You're
every
going to
year.
watch it at all?
Yeah, I was going to say, what do you mean? How are you going to see it?
I think it's
Um,
because is it opposite Ohio State, Indiana?
I
Hope so.
I've got this thing called split screen.
I
don't
think
think that gets
it's a waste of half your TV, John.
Yeah,
I've,
I
I've
would
got the
put on an
YouTube
old,
multi-view. You should try it sometime.
put on
Hello,
an old
it's
Super Bowl, right?
2025, whatever.
JB just put on an old Super Bowl like last year's. You'll enjoy it. It'll be fine. There's no, sorry. Had to take
I'm
one.
sorry, when did the 49ers win? Did
Maybe you could just watch a
did you have
replay of,
children at that point? Did you have kids the last time the Niners won a Super Bowl? Get
I
out
was
of
in
here.
college.
No, no. I will come for blood. Get the hell out of here.
That is it for Cooper DeJean, John Bryce, Pete Sampson, and myself on this episode of Irish Illustrated Insider. We'll actually be back on Thursday because today's Tuesday. We'll be back Thursday. Take your questions. We may do a very heavy question podcast since there's not a game to review unless you guys want to re-review Stanford. Until then, for Pete Sampson, Jack Freeman behind the screens, John Bryce, I'm Tim O'Malley. Thank you for watching and listening. Irish Illustrated Insider.